So I've got something really interesting today that I want to show you guys. This right here is a piece of wood, but it's not any normal piece of wood. It's really unique, and it looks really unique. It looks like it could be from a tropical tree or something, but this is actually a piece of wood that's made from hemp, which is the same plant that we get cannabis or marijuana from. And in this video, I'm going to explain how we get from this, which is the stalk of a hemp plant, to this, which is hemp wood. And I'll explain how that amazing process has a potential to revolutionize the building and woodworking industry and the environment. So stick around. So hemp has been around for thousands of years, and it's been cultivated by ancient civilizations worldwide for its fibers, seeds, and oils. Hemp was also an important crop for early American settlers who used hemp fibers to make rope, sails, fishing nets, and clothing. In fact, in 1619, the Virginia Assembly passed legislation requiring that every farmer grow hemp. Also, in the early days of the colonies of Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Maryland, hemp was allowed to be exchanged as legal tender. George Washington himself grew hemp, and hemp is still grown today at Mount Vernon. That love affair with hemp, though, didn't last forever, and in the early 1900s, use of marijuana for recreational purposes became popular and then really exploded during the Great Depression, and so then laws were passed to crack down on its usage. There was a slight reprieve, however, because during World War II, hemp was critical for the war effort, and the government handed out seeds and even granted draft deferments to those who would stay home and grow hemp. They even made a whole propaganda film about it.
But now, with Philippine and East Indian sources of hemp in the hands of the Japanese, and shipment of jute from India curtailed, American hemp must meet the needs of our Army and Navy, as well as of our industries. Rope for marine rigging and towing, thread for shoes for millions of American soldiers, and parachute webbing for our paratroopers. Hemp for victory.
After the war, though, things tightened up again, and in 1970, the Controlled Substances Act classified all forms of cannabis, including hemp, as a Schedule I drug. This classification made it illegal to grow hemp in the United States. Now, that status continued until the 2018 Farm Bill, which placed hemp into a different category than other cannabis species that have a higher tetrahydrocannabinol or THC concentration. More on that later. So how exactly do you turn these unassuming hemp plants into a durable wood-like product? Well, there is a company out there called Hempwood, and they're the ones that made this. And I recently sat down with their CEO, Greg Wilson, to talk about how their company works and how they create this really incredible product. Now, their process all starts with the cultivation of industrial hemp using sustainable farming practices. While it comes from the same plant as cannabis or marijuana, it's not the same variety. Marijuana is a type of cannabis plant that can induce a psychotropic effect due to the high content of THC. Hemp is a radically different variety that contains less than 0.3% of THC. And the part of the plant that is important for hemp production is the stalk, not the buds or the flowers. In fact, I asked Hempwood's CEO about the difference between medicinal or recreational marijuana and the strain that he is using to grow hemp for his hempwood, and here's what he said.
Medicinal marijuana is genetically modified hemp. What they do is they find certain strands that have certain attributes. They cultivate those to amplify that attribute and then breed it for generations to get it to have flower that has THC or CBD in it. Our stuff, we plant 1 million plants an acre, just like a row crop wheat drill, 7-inch wide. The more you let nature take its course, the less it has those attributes.
So here's how their process works. They grow these hemp plants, which mature in about 6 months, and then they harvest them into round bales. From there, they unroll them and put them into a crushing machine to open the stalk before they roll them into smaller packs and soak them in a soy-based glue. From there, they're placed into dryers, which were once used for tobacco and are now powered by hemp waste. Next, they're weighed to around 95 pounds and pressed into 6x6 blocks. These blocks are made on a huge press with a tremendous amount of force. From there, what they call the loaves are baked in an oven overnight before ultimately being trimmed and cut into size. So that is how we get from this to this. So I have a few pieces of hemp wood here, and I wanted to give you my first impressions of it. Now, first of all, it's actually pretty heavy and it's pretty dense. You can really feel it. Now, I wanted to run a few tests to get a feel for what it's like to work with hemp wood as a woodworker. So I took first to the chop saw and then the table saw to see how it would cut. Generally, it cut pretty well. It is dense and harder than a lot of other woods, but I didn't really have too much trouble with it. I also routed an edge and sanded it a bit. One very interesting thing is the smell. There's a very distinct smell when you cut hemp wood. It isn't unpleasant, but it's a bit hard to describe. It's kind of like a mix between a mild wood smell and hay or dried grass, but again, very mild. I sanded it at 120 and then at 220, and to get it really smooth, I think you'd have to definitely go to 320 or even higher. I also applied some finishes. I used a water-based finish and an oil-based finish. Now what I noticed here is that hemp wood is a very thirsty material. It will really soak in that finish. And while I only did one coat on these, it would definitely need multiple coats to make sure it was sealed right. The oil-based finish seemed to perform really well, and the hempwood surface stayed pretty smooth. The water-based finish, though, seemed to raise the grain quite a bit. To test how water would impact hempwood overall, I also poured some water on a hempwood piece and let it soak in. It definitely reacted and expanded and caused the grain to raise quite a bit. I suspect that if I'd let it soak in overnight, then it may start to delaminate. So the question is that really a problem? I personally don't think so. As long as it's properly sealed with an oil-based sealer, I don't see any reason why hempwood couldn't be used for flooring or furniture or anything else for that matter. So as a lumber alternative, how does hempwood compare? Well, like I say, hempwood is pretty dense and heavy. The company says that it has a Janka hardness of around 2200, which is, for reference, is harder than a lot of other hardwoods out there, including oak and hickory, which is pretty hard. That can make it ideal for things like flooring that need to take a lot of abuse, but it has the potential to dull your tools more quickly than other woods because of that hardness. So like I said, the denseness of hempwood makes it ideal for flooring or for things that take a lot of pressure like that. And it's better than a lot of other composite materials like bamboo for a lot of different reasons, but mainly because it doesn't contain any formaldehyde and it's free from any volatile organic compounds or VOCs. And a lot of people also like it because it's natural and sustainable, and it's 100% American made.
To America.
To America.
Hempwood is also super eco-friendly. In North America, we're running out of old growth forests, and while I believe it's possible to practice sustainable forestry and logging practices, you don't have to worry about that with hempwood. Hemp is a fast-growing crop that matures in 6 months, which is 100 times faster than an oak tree. And in those 6 months that it's growing, it's absorbing and storing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, making it what's known as a carbon negative crop. In fact, according to Hempwood, every single acre of industrial hemp that's grown removes and stores approximately 2 tons of carbon dioxide from the air. Now, before I talk about some of the downsides, let's just chat about the look for a minute. Now, there are 2 ways that they saw hempwood. One they call face sawn or live sawn, and the other they call rift sawn. Now, those are terms used for regular lumber, but because this doesn't come from a tree, the definitions are slightly different. It's really just a reference to how it looks. The face sawn or live sawn has more variation and bigger pieces and looks a lot less like wood, in my opinion. The rift sawn has more lines showing the layers that were pressed to form it. The cost is no different. It's really about the orientation and how it was sawn in relation to how it was pressed. So here are some pictures of actual hempwood flooring installed. And I want you guys to tell me what you think of it. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you prefer the rift sawn pattern or do you like the face sawn pattern? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. So as I've already mentioned, there are a lot of positives with hempwood. It's organic, it's American made, it's sustainable, it's good for the environment, it's good for your home, it's durable. But what about the cost? Well, this is where I see a bit of an issue. Hempwood does cost more than other kinds of lumber. On their website, you can buy a board that is 6 feet long, 1 inch thick, and 5 1/4 inches wide for around $42, not including shipping. That works out to be almost $16 per board foot. At a local lumber supplier here in Texas, I can buy rift sawn white oak for around $13.65 a board foot. And I'm sure that you can get it for much cheaper in other parts of the country where hardwood lumber is a lot more common, like Pennsylvania, where I used to live. For flooring, they don't have prices listed on their website, but Greg told me that they are absolutely competitive with white oak. But here's the thing on cost. Hempwood is still a small company and it's all new. I imagine that as it gets bigger and it can scale better, as it can work out its process better and maybe get some better tools and equipment, I think that their productivity is going to go up and the cost of hempwood will definitely come down. In the meantime though, it may not be really practical for all of your woodworking projects unless you really want to try it and make something out of hempwood. But in my opinion, I think that due to all of its other benefits, it can be very practical for flooring and may work really, really well as long as it's sealed properly. All right, so here's the bottom line. I really like hempwood and I think it is a super innovative and a really interesting product. And I really like what they're doing. It isn't practical in every situation, just like a lot of woods. You use different woods for different types of things. But I do think that this is a really interesting product. It's something that's really neat, something that no one else is doing. And I think that it has a lot of positives, and I hope that this company does really well. In fact, I'm going to leave some links in the description if you want to check out their website and if you want to order some samples of their products or even buy some flooring. I should say, first of all, that this is not a sponsored video and they're not paying me anything for this. They did send me some samples, but I also bought a lot of these pieces like this one here myself. And so I'm not committed to the product, right? I just think it's really cool and really interesting. And I think it's an innovative product that deserves to be looked at. So what do you guys think? Would you consider using hempwood for your next DIY project or your next home renovation project? Let me know in the comments below. Also, at the beginning, I mentioned that I did an interview with the CEO of the company, Greg Wilson, and so I will post that here in a few days. And once that's posted, I'll leave a link to it here as well. It was a great conversation. We got into a lot of different aspects of growing hemp, including the regulations that they have to follow and some of the challenges of their business because of the uniqueness of it. He's a really great, hardworking guy, and I really appreciate the time that he took to chat with me and talk about his product. Again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button. Share this video with someone that you think will find it interesting, whether they're a woodworker or a stoner woodworker.